Thank you, everyone. So on the topic we'll be speaking about today, we know everyone, we know what's happening. I'm also like guilty in terms of this, relocation thing, some couple of years ago as well. But in the past few years, like a year and some months ago, I've been having a couple of sessions with so many moms regarding the challenges that, we're facing when it comes to our children in these places that we found ourselves. And when we say relocation, it's not necessarily, we're not restricted to UK or Canada or to in the US. It's Portugal, Australia, wherever you found yourself, there would be some sort of impact, on our children. And before I, get into the main discussion today, I'm also a certified child psychologist, a certified sleep consultant, and a certified potty training consultant for children. And I do all this for you amazing mom, our community, as I also have alongside my 9 to 5 where I'm a strategy consultant as well. So when I'm saying we can be hands-on, raise amazing, phenomenal children and still achieve our dreams, as a mom as well. So coming back to our Jackpot story, right? To the impact, right? So like I said, in a couple of between, let's say, within like a year and few months, coming on sessions with several moms on the challenges that they're having with their children. So what I've seen is there's a gap. Many of us we assume that these children, they would settle when children, they adapt quickly. Children, they would be fine, right? That's what we would say. But there's also, despite the fact that they're going to enjoy the positive impact of relocation, because many of us will say, oh, we're doing this for our children, to have better education and all that. Tolu Lokwe, potty training, send us a DM, send me a DM, just say potty training, then we sort that out. So anyway, so like I was saying, many of us assume that the children would fit in, they would do well, they would settle in well. But what we've observed is that the children too are struggling. And when I say struggling, it's not obvious. And I will give you different, scenarios so that you might see some of these few things, with your children as well. But many of these parents, when they cry obviously out, for help coming to me, I'm like, Oyibo people, when they see something is not aligning, like it's looking different to what is looking differently to what they're used to, they might think, okay, maybe something is wrong with your child. But many children that we've been able to support, there's nothing wrong with this child. And I would give you different examples as to why they would think that there's something wrong. And simple. It's just like, let me give you, I like to use different, scenario stories so that, you can connect with what I'm saying. So when you see, for example, let's use ourselves as an example. In Nigeria, maybe they bring another child from a different, place, right, to Nigeria, and you see the child behaving in a certain way. The child is not behaving in that way just because there's something wrong with the child. But, as a Nigerian teacher, you're not used to seeing, let's say, a white child behaving in a certain way, maybe being vocal, maybe the child saying, no, you can't say that to me. No, you can't talk to me. No, I don't want to do that. And you're thinking, where's this child coming from? Why would you say you cannot do this, And you are thinking, something is wrong with this child. That's the same thing happening with our children, because many times I've seen moms, when they come on sessions and they're saying, the teachers are saying, there's something wrong with my child. My child is just so different. My child is not cooperating. My child is not following up, with instructions and all that. And I tell the parents, obviously we know when there's a challenge, right? But by the time you describe what it is, because I'm also a consultant when it comes to, special needs children as well. So I know the traits, I know when something is wrong. And by the time they say this, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with your child. But there's something wrong with how, I wouldn't say there's something wrong. The child is already used to a way of life, a way of being raised, a way of being, taught, right? A way of being directed. Now you have brought your child to a different place, and the child is just being himself or herself. But the people around can't understand because their children are not raised the way we raise our children, right? So if we're able to understand that, many times as a parent, you have to be understanding to say, I think my children need my support. Not that you come, hey, they've said this is wrong with my child. This child, you now start to threaten, the child. The same thing you've been doing back home. Because, I will tell you why something is going wrong and how we can fix this, these issues as well. So you still threaten the child, scold the child that why would you be behaving like this? Whereas it's your responsibility. You are the one that have brought this child from a known way of being raised to a different way, and it's your responsibility to fix it. The school here, they're not going to fix it for you because they would think something is wrong somewhere because they cannot understand. Because they just cannot understand. It's the same thing, when we're saying diversity, and all that. The way everybody thinks is, our upbringing is totally different. So we've seen many kids that, so let's give the scenarios. So let me give you scenarios and I will tell you why what has happened. So in the last few sessions that I've had, something has been common. About 4 families, they said, they leave their children at home and they will say, Temi, I just left this children. I just went outside. I just stepped outside just to maybe greet someone or pick something or whatever it is. It's not up to 10 minutes that I left my child in the house, right? And some will just say, I just went to my neighbor's house, just few minutes. I just said 10 minutes. Let's quickly go and come back. These children were sleeping. And those children would wake up and what would they do? They would leave the house. And they would beat, some of them, they would say they would spank the child. Why would you go out? You did not see mommy. You did not see daddy. You now left the house. Let me bring you back home, right? Why do you think your children would wake up? And some of them would say, but we've taught them, you don't live where we've put you. My question is, have you ever told the children that in case you do not see mommy or daddy, maybe if we step out, if we go out or whatever it is, just stay indoor because we're just around. But we couldn't have said that because it has never happened before. It's also a new thing to you. Why? Because when you're in, let's say, for example, Nigeria, right? Even when you step out, there's a gate. I think everybody, even if you do not have a gate in your house, you would be within an estate where, by the time your child literally walks out of the house, the child will get to the gate and they will tell, wait, who is this, child's parents? And they will call you, say, your child is here, come and pick your child. It's so different here in the world outside, our own country. And when we understand that, where we're coming from, even if your child wakes up, they will still see like nanny, uncles, aunties around the house. So they're not even looking for you because they can see someone around and feel safe. Now your child, wakes up or maybe they leave their room and they come out and they start thinking, where is mommy, daddy? And you're not responding. First, as a child psychologist, if a child is just asking, mommy, they would be looking for you. They would be crying. What has happened? Because children do not want bad things to happen to their parents. So they will be looking, mommy. And if they don't find you, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to want to step out. They would want to open the door to see, how can they look for you? And so when the children now do that, many of you would now even scold the children. Do you know that even scolding the children, you are scolding your child? Just the mere fact, the child, what is happening in the child's mind, head is that, oh my God, what has happened to my parents? Oh, I can't find my parents. And they leave the house, right? You are now scolding them for caring, like worrying, oh, hope nothing has happened. You are now scolding them that why would you go out? And and the funniest, the most, it's not even funny. The most surprising thing is that many of these children that, we've worked with are children less than like 7 years, old, 7, 6, 3, 2. And I'm thinking, as a parent, do you think these children are maybe teenagers or adults or something? Like, we have like really high expectations as parents. Maybe it's Nigerian parents, I don't know, but at least I speak with so many parents. And I'm thinking, you're expecting a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old to think and say, oh, I'm looking for my parent. Let me just sit down and my parent will come here. There's no child, except you've actually given instruction that, you know what, when you're looking around all over the house, and this is what I'm going to be telling you, you have to go and educate your children. If you look for mommy or daddy around the house and you cannot find us, don't worry, just sit. Tell them where to sit. Don't just say, be expecting us. No. Maybe sit in your room or sit in the sitting room and we'll be back very soon. You have to give clear instructions to children. Don't say, oh, because you take them out and you say, oh, when we're out, you stay here. No, you are not in there. You are not outside. They're in the house and they think they're safe there. And the last time they saw you in somewhere. So what's your responsibility? Is to start to teach them and call it out. When you do not see us in the house, maybe we're just out, just stay there. We will come for you. And they would do that. And stop scolding children for doing such a thing because they've done the right thing. That's why many children, they will be thinking, okay, they've scolded us for caring, being a good child. Okay, we'll just, switch off from there. We wouldn't even care any longer. Because if we even do anything, they would come and spank us at the end of the day, right? So if we're able to understand what the dynamics was when we were back home, the dynamics is that they have, an adult, they're usually under supervision or there's a gate. When they get to the security say, mommy, your child is outside. So they're not going to step out. But here, they will step out. There's no gate. So they will just step out. Neighbors will find them. And if we've seen, few moms that have reached out that is a police that even, they've called the police to say, oh, there's a child wandering around in this place. And here, children, their priority. They're going to think, what's wrong? Why is the child wandering around the place? Do you see small children just wandering around the whole place in this place? So please, when we understand that side of things, then we're able to adequately support our children, right? This is a very common scenario. Another scenario that would usually happen is that they are saying, oh, we don't want our children to be crying because if they are crying, police, people, neighbors can, report and say, oh, why is the child crying? Trust me, if you are doing the right thing, right? For example, maybe we're sleep training children. Some people say, oh, children should not cry. Oh, or maybe if you're trying to tell your child, correct your child, that they've done something wrong. Maybe you're putting your children in the, timeout corner, or you're saying this is what, and the child is screaming and crying that they're afraid that, neighbors can call the police or whatever it is. There's no police that comes to your house in this place and they ask, why is your child crying? And you say, we're trying to, get the child to listen and all that, and the child was crying because the child, wants to get their way. We said, you cannot have biscuits now, or you cannot have this, and the child started to throw tantrums. Will the police tell you that, why would you tell your child, give the child biscuits? There's no responsible citizen that is going to do that. But you know where you are going to be faulted? If you now are maybe that type of parent that you beat, you spank, you yell, you threaten your child. Obviously, if the neighbor calls and they come, why is your child crying? They ask the child, did they spank you? The child will say yes. Why? Even if you did not spank that child that very day, the child knows that you spanked them. And that is why many of you might be also afraid, for the neighbors calling. But if you're doing the right thing, if you are not spanking your children, if you are not threatening your children, you are doing the right way in having to communicate with your children, then you should not be afraid to raise your children right. You shouldn't be afraid. Children will cry. Cry does not do anything to any child. But why are they crying? Right? So that is one of the few things, scenarios that is also, affecting, we migrants or we Jackbarians in this way, because everything we say police. There's no police is coming for anybody. Do the right thing. Raise your child right. If you need to unlearn some stuff, some of you will say, me, how can I was listening to a mom one day. Me, I can never, I will always spank my child. I will, and I'm looking, in this abroad, you want to be spanking. I clap for you. Because there's so many alternatives to raising children, and they would listen without being spanked. Yes, unlearn the bad habits. We have, when they say when you are in Rome, you behave like the Romans. We are here. There's nothing. If you threaten, there's no. They know that threat does not work, but it works. Which will bring me to my next point. It works in Nigeria or in your maybe African, because I know Africans, we have a very similar way of raising children. So it can be working for you back home, right? But it cannot work here, and that's why you have to continue to unlearn, relearn, and learn. So which now brings me to the next point of threatening. So for the children that they say they do not, so many moms that I've worked with, that the teachers will say, oh, their children are not following up, following simple instructions in class. They cannot sit still. They think there's something, they need to watch this child. There's nothing wrong with your child. It's you've not done what you're supposed to do. And why? Because where we are coming from, what do? Even in school, they threaten children. Oh, if you do not listen, all of you, if you don't sit down, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. They don't threaten in this place. So if you don't listen, they will leave your child for you. The worst, maybe they would give some, there some instructions that they would put out there. But no teacher is going to threaten your child here. So that is what, your children, they are used to it that, they will just say, if you don't listen, everybody keep quiet. Listen to Miss this. There's nobody that will do that. So why? The children are already used to a way of being taught, right? They're used to being, yes, they might not be yelling at them. Some schools, I know many schools might not yell at children in Nigeria. If your children go to some certain schools, but majority of the schools, they will yell, they will threaten, they will do that, right? So because your child is already used to the fact that to get them to cooperate, fall in line, in the Nigerian school, they will threaten them. Oh, we'll tell your daddy, we'll tell your mommy, you are not doing this. But when they get here, when they are just talking to them, oh, what has happened to you? What happened? And the child is saying, hey, this is good, oh, this is good life. No threat. The child will just be misbehaving. The child is not listening because the child is not used to structure. Here, they have structure, right? Fall in line. This is what you do. This is how you do. You look right here. That's how they've raised their children from a very young age. How they can wear their shoes, tie the laces on time, wear the jacket, and you now bring your own child. Your child, maybe your 5-year-old or 6, cannot wear jackets. They will be thinking, these are skills we've taught these children from a very young age. So they'll be thinking, what's happening? This is impossible. Whereas there's nothing wrong with your child. Where we've brought our child from is different. So when you start to identify and say, then you start to work and see how can I help my children build structure. And the school, they have their own structure. It's your responsibility to say, how do I now build a structure in my home to support my child so that my child understands that there's a process, there's a structure, there's a routine, there's something I would need to follow. Oh, when I come back home, this is what I need to do. When they say they give me 15 minutes to finish a task, you start to time your child. You need to finish this thing, within this time, rather than you just leave your child. Oh yeah, do this. do that. Whereas in school, they have certain time to complete tasks, no matter how young they are, right? So if you are getting to understand where you are bringing your child from, you would empathize, with your child. Sorry, I have a bit of cold. You would empathize with your child that, oh, God, oh, I understand. And you can communicate to your child to say, I know that, you might be having these challenges. Don't worry, I'm here. We're going to get through this. I'm going to support you. Oh, they said, you're not following through instructions in class. Oh, at home, what do? You start to put structure that your child would also have to follow through. Teach your child how to follow through with, instructions as well, right? And another one, sometimes they would say, your child, and for some of you, having to get your children to listen as well. This place, you cannot obviously, obviously, you all know that when it comes to spanking is a no-no from my own end as, as a child psychologist, right? So, but in Nigeria, we can even say, if you want to be spanking your child, is your business. But here, you have to find ways, because when your child, because I have a problem, when you now start to tell your children that if I spank you, if you like, go to school, tell them that I spank you, they will take you away from me, blah, blah, blah. Even so now, and you've also done the same thing, put fear in your child. You are raising your child out of fear, because obviously, your child does not want them to take them away from you, right? But what are you doing? You're teaching your children to lie. So if the child now starts to lie, how do you want to support the child as well? So there's some ground rules that you should not even, if they say we do not support spanking, we do not support, because even yelling, they don't support it because they feel, it's emotional, it would have some emotional impact, like emotional abuse as well, just shouting, hey, Kilode, why are you doing this? What is that? Is it only me? I did not kill my mother. My mother did not kill their mother. This is not funny, but in fact, so what do? Learn alternative, ways. And there are alternative ways. Some of us, at least I've raised my children. I raised my children back home. I have teen children now, right? I brought them. I relocated, I jackpot with them, though I did not fall into jackpot, but let's just take a jackpot. And back in Nigeria, I was not spanking my children because and if you're still back home, for example, and you're raising children, I say raise children for world standards. So, because you don't know the future, you don't know where you're going to find yourself, you don't know where your children are going to find themselves. So rather than saying, this is Nigeria, this is what is the expectations with world standards, and raise your children for the future. You don't raise your children for the past. You don't raise your children because was what your parents did, your forefathers did. Look, what is the future? What are we seeing? Right? That's how I think. When we have strategy sessions and all that, where are we going? Then you raise your children for where they're going. So many of us did not even know that we're going to Japa, Abi. So we were just raising our children for Nigeria. So if you're still back home, right, in Nigeria, in Ghana, raise your children for world standards so that you do not have difficulty when you now relocate, right? So please, if you're spanking, there are many alternative ways of getting children to listen. If you need support, we have different courses that can help you. You can send a DM if you're struggling, with having to get your children to listen. Because I would always say, because we're saying you should not spank children, does not mean you will take rubbish. Because if you take rubbish, because God will even judge you. Because it's your responsibility to teach, direct, counsel, and guide and raise the children. So if they're doing something wrong, and you're saying, the people say we should not spank you. They say we should not yell at you. You are looking. It's worse. It will be even worse than you not spanking. So there are ways that you can get your children to cooperate and listen to you, right? So if you need support, feel free to send us a DM. We have very affordable courses that can help you. So coming back to, ways. So how can we ensure that we are supporting our children. Because I see a lot of us, a lot of parents are now getting very frustrated. I've had like moms tell me, you know what, I just want to go back to Nigeria. This place is just so tough to raise children. Their children are no more listening. Their children, they're just talking back at them and all that. If you are the one too, that there's no structure. If you are the child that you saw that, this place, we have power. Power for the kids. The children will be misbehaving. They'll talk to you anyhow because they see that their friends or whatever, people around just talk and they get away with it. So what is your own responsibility is that, okay, how can I, effectively get the best from my children here? Because if you take them back home as well, are you going to leave them there? You will still want them to come back maybe when they're in secondary school. That is if they're not in secondary school now or university or something. You still want them to come back. So it is still going to come around one day, because it's the gap. The gap is that when you were back in Nigeria, if you were doing the right way of raising as well, the impact would not be too negative on both you and the children. It's because you were raising children maybe out of fear, out of, whatever that looks like back in Nigeria. And, when you threaten children in Nigeria, obviously any child you threaten, they will listen to you. But if you were not doing that back home, it will just be a continuous thing, right? So you don't have to struggle that much. So even if you say you take them back and you bring them back, it will still be the same thing at the end of the day. Yes, now an older version of disrespect so let's just do the right thing. So it's the same way you're getting frustrated as a parent to say, I'm just tired. Your children too, some of them are struggling at school. Do you just ask them, how was school? Did you ask them, are you, is anybody, is anything bothering you? Are you settling well? Is not only bullying, don't just use that word bully, because they will just say, no, nobody is bullying them. Does anybody, talk to them in an unkind way? Is anybody mean to them, right? Or are they making friends? Are they finding it difficult to make friends? Because some of them, they make fun of their accents. They look down on them. They say, oh, you're coming from, the way they paint them, especially if your children are joining secondary schools, is really tough on many of the secondary school children, because the picture that they've painted for them here is like, it is we're suffering in Nigeria, right? So do you ask your children those type of questions so that you can be able to support and be there for them? Not that they told you, they called us, so you're not doing this in school, you're not doing this in school. Are you actually? Because many times I say, is your child doing this when you were back in Nigeria? Is the behavior like this, or the behavior changed when you got here? So if you say, oh, it changed here, then you have to respond and say, okay, we need to do something. My child wasn't like this, right? So what has happened? We're like this, and this is what is happening now. And how can we support this child, moving forward, rather than condemn your child, shout at them, talk down. Oh God, please always put yourself in your child's shoes before you talk. If you want to be, if anyone talks down at you, how do you feel, right? You don't have to talk down at any child because they're just children. There are ways that you can communicate with your children to actually get them to, understand your own point of view, as well. So another thing, we need to also put into consideration is, please be present. I know many of us, we want to work, we want to make pounds, and dollars. We know that it's not easy here to pay bills and all that. But please, whatever you do, your children are your priority. Because at the end of the day, we've seen it played out, right? That you work so hard and you don't have peace of mind in your old age, right? Your children are not making, the children are not making their parents happy. The children have gone into drugs. They're going into, gangs and all that, just because you are not present. Please be present. Try. Balance it. Yes, work, but be present for your children. Another thing I wanted to also say as well, I would just say this, just to advise, if you have teen children, please because we are working hard, try not to be giving. This one is just a tip. I will not go into details because I'm on a live session. Please be careful giving house keys to your teenage children just because you've gone out to work and you're not going to be back on time. And I know, but you have to find a way around it. I'm not going to speak so much. If you need any tips as to why and what you can do about it, you can chat, send me a chat. But if you always leave keys, your children are coming back home every day, they're not meeting you. Teenage children, especially secondary schools, secondary school children, they go to school. When they come back, there's no adult in the house. They just open the door themselves. They take care of themselves every day. They know that is what would happen. Like, they know mommy is at work, daddy is at work, or whatever it is. Please find a way around it. Stop it. I'll just leave that there. And another way to, be able to support your children, when, for those, for some of us that, are just planning to relocate, please involve your children in your relocation journey. I know we Nigerians, we don't want to tell, our children because, children, they will say, we are going to the UK, we are going to Canada. Yes. So what you can do, there are different ways you can do it. We obviously involved our children. And just to say, this is just an information just for our families, right? But if you know, your child is this type of child that would, be saying, we're good, you can wait till maybe a week, but you must inform your children before you put them on that plane. Right? Don't just children will find themselves, okay, we're traveling. The children will think, we're traveling, we're going. They wouldn't know that, that is bye to all their friends, to everything they've known. So it's when you now get here, you now be telling them, so we're going to find you a school, now we're there. Yes, your children can be a bit excited, the fact that, okay, they're in the new place, but it would have an impact, the mere fact that they're not prepared, especially for older children. Even younger children, it does also have some impact on them, but they might not be able to articulate and communicate how they're feeling, with you. But for the older children, if you don't involve them, it does really affect how they're able to settle down well here. But if you've involved them and you say, by the time we get here, the schools, they're prepared, and you start to, they're confident. When you get there, you would have researched, whatever, how they're able to settle in school, how they should behave, how they should talk to their friends, the people, how they can make friends. You have to teach them. They're not going, it doesn't fall from the sky. It's your responsibility to win your children into the new, community that you're finding yourself in, right? And the next thing I'll be saying is, please, create a structure. Have routine. Not that your children will wake up, they will do anything, anyhow, and even you, the mom, thank you so much. You, the mom, you too, no structure, nothing, everybody's just doing. Please, it would help your children settle well in school, especially the younger children as well. If there's no routine for young children, they would misbehave. They would be nice today, they will be nice, they will not be nice tomorrow. They will throw tantrums today, they will not throw it tomorrow, because there's no guidance, there's no structure, there's no routine. Please create routines for your children. You can go and research how to create routines. It's very simple. At one time we shared, a link, and you can, if I can still find it, if you want like some sort of guideline as to, I think we shared a link that you could just, register, and it's free routine schedule. You can also send us a DM. I'll be happy to share that with you as well. So if you are struggling to create a structure or a schedule or something, if you need some guidance, we have a toolkit. It's a free resource. Just send us a DM send us a DM, then we'll share the link to register to get that free tool as well. And please seek for help on time. Why? You've heard me say a few moms, booking sessions and all that, because these children, they need support. If you see that something is going wrong, if you're constantly having feedback, negative feedback from your child's teacher, don't just say, hey, yeah, what can I do? You come home and you'll be screaming and shouting on the child, hey, yeah, what will we do? Please seek help. Seek help. Seek help on time, because I will leave that there as well. Don't let me come and be showing myself here. So please seek help on time. If you see something is off, don't just be just talking and shouting on the children. Just find, seek help, reach out, book a session, and let's look into how we can quickly support your children to be able to really fall into place in school or at home and all that. And some of you say your children are also scared. They don't want to be left alone. How will they not be scared now? The children that they were always with people back home. Now it's only you. It's only us. There's no nanny, no anybody, no auntie, no grandma, nobody. So why would the child not be scared, right? Especially the young children. Empathize with your children, and obviously you would not just fold your hands and say, Pele, I understand, sorry. You have to do something. If not, it's not okay for a child to continue to be fearful. It's your responsibility to support that child and take that fear and start to teach that child in having to settle in and adapt to the new environment that they found themselves in. And finally, unlearn all those our bad habits. Some of them, they are good, though. What I always say is that there's some that we need to improve on, right? Some stuff that we were using, the ways that we're using to raise our children back home and all that. There's some you would improve on those strategies. There's some you have to throw those strategies and be like, no, this strategy is not going to work here. You have to learn, okay, what do they expect from us in this new place, and start to adapt and learn the best ways to raise your children in the new place that you found yourself. Trust me, if you're involved, if you're learning and unlearning and all that, here as well, when it comes to sex education, we say sex education. Some of you will be thinking, they're teaching sex. No, there's a lot going on here. You see, same-sex relationships, marriages and all that. Have you had this communication, had this communication with your children? Have you, anyway, please do the right thing, empower your children on time. When it comes to sex education, please let them know. Oh God, in fact, I don't want to, it's a live session, so I don't want to, because it can go anywhere. I wouldn't want to say so much, but please, it's your responsibility to empower your children. A lot is happening. We've seen young children, a girl, 4, 5, they will be saying they are boys. A boy, they will say they are girls. Have you educated them on time so that nobody will come and bamboozle them and say, you can be anything that you choose to be? That is another story for another day, right? But if you want support or help, please reach out to us, or anybody you want to reach out to. It's not compulsory. We're the ones that will support you, but please find, be very quick to seeking help on time. Don't leave it to chance. Like some people will be saying they're winging something, I don't support anybody to wing parenting. I'm not winging my parenting, because I don't wing my life. I don't wing my career. I don't wing my marriage. I'm not winging whatever. So I'm not going to wing. If you want to know the meaning of winging, is that you do, it's however it happens. We're just learning. What you have to start to say is that we're all learning. We're learning in this journey. I'm still learning. I'm unlearning and relearning. That's what you should be saying. This parenting journey, it doesn't come with a manual. We're still learning. Don't jump on that trend that you are winging parenting. We are not winging it, because we are not doing anyhow with our children in this digital age. We're going to raise phenomenal children. The Lord will continue to grant us wisdom, because we need it. The Lord will continue to grant us wisdom. He would empower us so that we can empower our children as well, right? And He would not allow our children to miss their way. But before we pray that prayer, you will do your own work as a parent and do the right thing, like I would always say, God can only bless the works of your hands, right? If you do not do anything, if you are winging it and leaving it to chance, God will just be looking at you. But if you've done everything, you've learned, you've unlearned, you read books, like now you're on this live, you go for, you buy courses. There's so many things. You have sessions, coaching and all that, parenting, coaching, to understand how to raise your children in this age. This age is a very challenging time. It's different from our own time. So if you're very deliberate about it, then you now say, God, I've tried my best. God, please bless. Exactly. Faith and works. You need to do your work.